everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and in this video I'm going to be doing a big life update Q&A as well as answering your questions. So grab yourself a warm beverage. I have got a cup of tea. Even though it's like 25 degrees outside, I will eternally be one of those people who, even in a very, very hot country, will drink warm tea. This is just going to be very chatty, very kind of low-key. I just wanted to update you all on some exciting things that are happening in my life and also answer some of your questions, which you guys have been so amazing, like asking your questions, and you sent so many amazing questions in. So thank you if you did submit a question. It means the world to me that you guys care actually about my thoughts and what's going on with my life. So thank you if you did submit a question for this video. I will try and answer them all, but I'm also aware that this video will get very long and I don't want to bore you too much. But anyway, let's get on to the first bit of the video, which is what's happening in my life, where I am at, and what my updates are. So I would say the first big thing, which is very exciting, I have a new job, which I am starting at the end of July, and I will be the new publicity director for Black and White Publishing Group, which is a brand new division of Bonnier Books. So this is, yeah, huge, because I've been at my current job, which is acting publicity director for HQ, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, for 7 years, 7 and a bit years. I joined there in 2016, I want to say, and I basically have risen up the ranks with HQ, and it's been the most incredible journey. I've met some friends there that are like my best friends. Like, it has been an incredible place of learning, of growth for me. But you know, sometimes you know when it's time to go, in the words of my Queen Taylor Swift. I think being there for so long, you get kind of not complacent, but you kind of do get very comfortable. And that comfort is amazing. Like, I loved being able to do my job, like kind of like second nature, like the support, you know, I had there. And in terms of like recently being in a leadership position and leading the team, I was covering the publicity director's maternity leave there. So I was like leading the publicity team and I was part of the leadership team at HQ, which was so cool, so amazing to have like almost a year just leading the team and making decisions and trying to, you know, just spearhead the PR efforts for HQ. So when this opportunity came up to be the new publicity director for a brand new division, so if all these kind of weird jargony publishing words don't mean anything to you, a division is kind of like a sub company, like a different part of the business within a larger publishing company. So for example, HarperCollins have several different divisions. They have like Harper Fiction, Harper Voyager, William Collins, Fourth Estate, HQ, and Bonnier are basically doing a similar thing where they have their Zafra division and their Black and White Publishing division, which is a brand new division as of January 2023. So this is a new role really, and I'm kind of coming in with, you know, like there are some unknowns. Like, it's going to be quite a scary challenge for me to just go into and just get going and hit the ground running, but I'm really excited / anxious about the change, because I think like it is that it's going to be a big change, a new team, new titles to work on, new authors to work with, new books. That is my news. It's very exciting. I will be starting at the end of July, and I don't really post much like work things on this channel. You may have noticed that. I don't want to ever seem like these two worlds are blurring, like my professional life and career as a publicist and also my book channel. And they are kind of connected in the sense of I have made lots of publishing videos, like how to get into publishing, like my tips as a hiring manager in publishing and what I look for in terms of like in people who are applying for jobs. But also this channel helped me get into publishing, so I can never really let this channel go. Like, no matter what position I get to in my career, like this channel is coming with me. You know, I don't ever review any of the books that I work on really. I never really talk about the books that I work on in a publicity campaign perspective. And I try and keep those things very separate. You may also have noticed that like I don't really do videos where I talk very negatively about books. I'm never going to, for example, create videos that are, you know, the worst books I've read this year. And the reason being is because in publishing, you never know who you're going to be working with. Like, publishing is a very small world. And though like everyone else, I have books that I absolutely adore and books that I really didn't like and just wasn't for me, I'm never going to put out that negativity and kind of warn people off books on the internet. One person's favorite book is probably another person's least favorite book. I can only tell you what I particularly enjoyed and what I'd recommend, and that's kind of the way that I'm gonna go about things. So just an explanation if you have wondered why I don't really make any the worst books I've read this year videos or anything like that. So I think that's my life update section over. Like, that is the biggest update of my life recently. Like, it's gonna be a big change, and hopefully you shouldn't see much change on this channel, but there may be weeks where I miss an upload or something like that. That's worst case scenario, but I wanted to let you guys know and to fill you in with what's happening in my life. I'm very, very excited. So let's just get on to the questions, shall we? Because you guys have sent in some amazing questions, and I'm so thankful, as I said, to all of you guys who did. So the first one I want to answer is from Lynette Reads on Instagram. She said, do you have any finished works that you're hoping to get published, or are you still working towards that? Well, Lynette, I do have a finished book that you will probably know about if you watched my NaNoWriMo vlogs in 2022. This is a historical fantasy book, and it is currently being read by my beta readers who are reading the book, giving me some feedback, and I'm about to start edits on that book tomorrow, with the goal of hopefully querying this book to an agent, like ideally by September. That's like my ultimate deadline. My ridiculously high dream for this book is that you will one day be able to read it, because it is the book of my dreams. It's the book I've always wanted to read, and writing this book just felt like ease. It felt natural. It felt like, don't get me wrong, it's still bloody difficult to write a book, but I felt joy writing this book. On every single page I wrote, I was like, this is just me in a book. It's dark, it's romantic, it is funny and quirky, I want to say. It pays homage to my favorite things like Regency era, the Romantic poets, English literature. There is a lot in there that I think you will all love. So please stay tuned. I will let you know if there are any updates. But yes, I have a finished book, and I really do want to see that published sometime soon. Okay, so the next question is, do you find it hard to separate work and pleasure when reading books? And this is by Chima C98. When I need to read books for work, so I am not an editor, I'm a publicist, so I don't have to read books in terms of like editing them or acquiring them in that way, but I do have to read the book. Say if I'm doing a PR campaign on it, it definitely helps reading the book. I always read those on my Kindle, and I don't really find it that hard to separate it, because like I view it as a perspective of like, am I enjoying this book? That kind of lens works for the books I'm reading for pleasure and the books I'm reading for work. And I guess the difference between my work reading is really just like, what PR angles can I like take out of this? What's the main USP to this story? Like, what's going to be the thing that we really need to hone in on in terms of the PR campaign? Things like that. But no, at the moment, I don't really find it too difficult to separate work reading and pleasure reading. I guess the difference is the books that I work on are not typically the books that I read in my spare time. I read a lot of fantasy and romance in my spare time, and at work I don't really work on any fantasy books. So that's quite nice, because then at least I know that the genres that I do read for pleasure, I know in my head that they are kind of like books I'm not reading for work, if that makes sense. So it does help in that sense that the genres are quite different, but I read so broadly anyway that yeah, it doesn't really matter. I think like if I enjoy it, that's the main thing for like both work and pleasure. Okay, let's go on to the questions that were asked on YouTube. There's quite a few questions here, so I'm going to try and get to them all. So the first one was from Tarmel3138, and the first question that they had was, I think I've heard you talking about playing Dungeons and Dragons, or am I making that up? If you do play, would you tell us about it, please? I love this question so much, because like I haven't really spoken about it. I've only like posted a few Instagram stories, so I love that you picked up on that. Yes, I have a Dungeons and Dragons group that are mainly comprised of my two friends that I've met in publishing, Joe and Izzy, and basically just all of our partners. And we don't have like a name for ourselves, but like we are just chaotic and I love it. So my character is called Aline and she is a elf. She is a sorceress or a mage, and I don't know much about like the schematics of D&D. Like I don't really look into it too much. I just am a complete newbie to it. So really I look to the other guys to like help me out in terms of like what I can do and different things, but I just love it as a writer myself and someone who's quite creative, just having scenarios where I can just create, you know, and think, what would this character do? And I absolutely love it. So we don't do it very often. We kind of do it once every few months, but the times that we do play D&D are honestly the most fun. I love them so much. So yes, if my D&D gang are watching, I really hope we need to do another one soon, and I'm very looking forward to it because Aline, the high elf, needs more airtime, just saying. Tarmel3138's second question was, what made you start reading fantasy and romance? Was there one book in either genre that just gripped your heart and made you a convert forever? So I don't know what made me start reading both of these genres. I would say romance. My love for romance has always been there from a young child, and I don't know whether that's from like watching Disney films. Like generally, if a story doesn't have a romance plot, I get bored quite quickly. I need romance. Like I am quite a whimsical romantic person, and that's what I've always looked for in books generally. If it has a romance, great. For fantasy, I don't even know what to trace it back to. I've always been a massive fantasy nerd in the sense of like the TV shows I watch, the films I watch have all been fantasy. Like, you know, as a child, like the Lord of the Rings films were like my childhood, my awakening, like so good. So I've always kind of looked for fantasy books and romance books that have given me that same kind of feeling. This is why I read so much fantasy romance, because it combines the two things I love the most. And in terms of like the books that really kind of set my heart alight for each of those genres, I would say the first fantasy book that really did that for me was probably Throne of Glass. I read that book when I was about 18, literally like when it came out. I don't know, obviously I've been a Sarah J Maas fan for many years, but like I remember when Sarah J Maas just had Throne of Glass out, because like I read that book and I was like, why isn't nobody talking about this? Like we need to talk about this book. And then in terms of romance, I think it's got to be Pride and Prejudice. I read that book when I was 13, 14, and it captured my heart and has never left me. Like I am still as hopeless a fangirl for Pride and Prejudice as I was back then, and it just spurred on my love of Jane Austen really. So props to that book, like yeah, obsessed. And another question from Tarmel, does your family know about your YouTube channel? If so, do they watch it? I'm thinking of starting a channel too, and I'm oddly mortified about my family watching. So my family does know I have a YouTube channel, and they don't really watch it apart from my little sister Adriana, who watches all my videos. Like she is quite significantly younger than me, so is probably a lot more in tune with the online world and a lot cooler, but she is like my biggest fan and watches all these videos, and I know will probably be watching this as well, so hi Addie. But yes, they know about it. And when I first started my channel back in 2013, I think like nobody was like, gave me any grief for it. Nobody was embarrassed about me setting up a YouTube channel. I think especially during back in 2013, I was embarrassed because setting up a YouTube channel and telling people about that YouTube channel meant in their minds that I was like a beauty vlogger or something, or a beauty YouTuber, tutorial guru. And they didn't really understand the bookish side of YouTube. That wasn't really prevalent then. Now I do feel like if you start a YouTube channel, most people will get it. Like most people kind of do get that. And in terms of your family, like, you know, I think it's a creative outlet, YouTube. It is a way of expressing yourself, connecting with people, and they don't have to watch it. Like my entire family don't watch my YouTube videos at all. They know they're there, but it's mainly my little sister who watches them, which is so cute. So I would say go for it, and your family will support you. You don't need to be mortified, especially in this day and age. Like, YouTube is just part of the kind of ecosystem, the online ecosystem. In my mind, it's the same as like having an Instagram account where you're just sharing things of your life online. But with YouTube, like especially if it's booktube, you are sharing your love of books, and there's nothing greater than that. So Elise Reads and Writes on YouTube said, your house is on fire and you can only save one book. Which one would you save? Now this is really cruel, can I just say. I'm looking at my shelves because I genuinely don't know. I think it might be probably my proof of A Court of Thorns and Roses, because this proof was signed by the Queen, Sarah J Maas, and it was signed when I interviewed her for my channel. And I just love, this holds so many good memories for me, because that was really a time when my channel was really exploding after I posted that interview with her. And this was right at the start of like my fantasy romance obsession. So I owe it all to Court of Thorns and Roses. I owe it all to Sarah J Maas. And this also started my journey with Sarah, in the sense of, after this interview, I was then asked to chair multiple events of hers throughout the years. And it just has the best memories, because like I feel like I've grown up with her books, even though this was published when I was like 22, but still, I feel like this book is the one I'd save. It's obviously a proof, it's obviously signed, and it comes from that very special memory of like meeting her for the first time, getting to film with her. It was amazing, so I'd probably save this one. And Makoko83 said, 3 books you couldn't live without. Oh, this is a really hard one. I think like the first one has to be Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Mainly because I reread that book quite a lot. I have a very emotional connection to that book, if that makes sense, and I'm just absolutely obsessed with it. The second book I couldn't live without is a hard one. I think probably A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have reread that book so many times. I owe that book a lot in terms of, as I said, burgeoning my fantasy romance obsession. And for my third book that I couldn't read without, it'd probably be The Poems of John Keats. Now, this is a bit of an odd choice, I understand, if you're watching my channel for the first time, but I am a huge fan of the poetry of the Romantics, in particular John Keats. I wrote my final year university dissertation on his poetry and his life, and let's just say he may have inspired my novel that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. So his poetry means the world to me. I again have like a very emotional connection to his work and to his story and his life, and yeah, I think this one means a lot to me as well. So A Court of Thorns and Roses, Pride and Prejudice, and John Keats's poetry. And the final 2 questions are quite similar, so I'm just going to answer them in the same go. But Poppy Lizzie asked, what is a comfort book that you can reread over and over? And Kialas, I think that's how you pronounce that, what is your comfort read of the classics and in what book form? Now, my answer is the same for these 2 questions. It is Pride and Prejudice, and in particular in this book form. So this is the headline review edition of Pride and Prejudice. This has been worn. This has been used so many times, and I don't know how well you can see just how beautiful this edition is. I received this book for my 15th birthday, my 16th birthday or something like that, and I'd already read Pride and Prejudice at that time, and I wanted to collect the whole of Jane Austen's works in this headline review edition that they were doing, just because they are so pretty. Like, I cannot with them, they are so beautiful. So I have the entire set down here somewhere. You can watch my, bookshelf tours if you want to see the full editions of them. I also reread this book, or try to reread this book at least once a year. It is comfort for me. It is like a warm hug in a book. And I know this is probably very cliche, it's probably most people's, to be honest, but Jane Austen was the first classic author, I would say, that I read, apart from John Keats, but that was a bit later on in my life. As I said, I started reading Jane Austen at the age of 13, 14, and I'd never known obsession like it. I didn't think you could get obsessed to like a classical author or classic book, but I was wrong, and here I am, a Jane Austen addict at 31 years old, guys, and I'm still here. We've come a long way since reading this book at 13, that's all I can say. So yeah, this is the book that answers both of those questions. So guys, that is it for my life update and my Q&A. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question. Like, genuinely, you don't know how much it means, because like, you know, just the fact that I put something out saying please ask me questions about my life and you've replied and asked me a question, that just mind blown. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed this like quite chatty video, learning a little bit more about me and, you know, several different things, my job, my writing project, books, everything. So I really do appreciate you, and I hope to see you back with another video very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye.